Alrighty, welcome back to lesson number 4 or 5. Uh, this will be a really fun one because this is where we can start developing more knowledge now that we understand candlesticks, how the market moves, what ways it moves. We went over that in the last video, right? Market structure, higher highs and lows for the uptrend, lower highs and lower lows for the downtrend, and then when it starts consolidating into a range where it goes sideways. So today I want to talk about the confluence of break of structure, right? This is also in around the same thing with trends, right? When we have a trend, what happens when we have a break of a trend, right? So that's what we're going to learn. We're going to have a break of the market structure. So let's say we are in, let me find my little tool here. So we are in an uptrend. We'll say that for this example, right? Again, going up and down, pulling back, making a higher high and a higher low. So I put that there for you. Higher high. We'll just call this one a high, right? This is a high, and then this is a low, and then we have our higher high, higher low, and so on, right? Here, here, right? So we're in this uptrend, right? Eventually, it's going to stop moving up, right? And we can have a reversal. We can start going sideways, and we need to determine when we have a break of this uptrend or a break of the market structure, right? So as soon as we start failing to have a higher high and a higher low, right, we'll start consolidating. We'll say we're in a range, right, where we're not making higher highs and higher lows anymore, right? So we have our level of resistance and support. Now, the market can either continue to go sideways or we can go up or down. And how do we determine that? So break of structure is when, like I said, you're breaking, an uptrend or a downtrend. So we like to define this by, let's say, for example, we're going into a downtrend, right? We're making lower highs and lower lows. Well, there's a low right here. And we finally break out of this range and start going into a downtrend, right? Where we form a lower low than this previous low. So how do we determine this, right? So we have candles here. Of course, I'm using lines, but once we have a close beneath the previous low, we have a break of structure. So it could be right here where we have another low, but this is the lowest low. But as you can see in this example, the low is here, and we move all the way down, and the candle closes and creates a low right here and starts moving back up. That's a break of structure, right? So now we know, okay, we're officially in a downtrend. And of course, there's other confluences to go with this because the market could fake out, right? We could literally start, instead of going down here, we can pull back all the way down and then start consolidating again or just shoot up, right? It could fake us out. But this is an important confluence to know, paired with other ones to have a good strategy to know how to make the best entry points and how to make money in the market. So we're going to show this on the charts, right? So really we can go anywhere from here. Let's go ahead and we can use this downtrend right here, right? So the market's moving down, and then we finally have a low right here. Boom. This is the lowest low. As you can see, it continues to go in a weird direction. So where is our previous high? We have one right here. This is the lower high, and then here's the low, right? As soon as we see, okay, we might, we might continue to go down here at this point, right? So we have another high right here. Oh, cool. It's a lower high than the previous high. But what happens? we create a higher low. Oh man. Okay. Well, it still doesn't mean that we're going into an uptrend, right? As soon as we have a candle closure above this high, right? This high, we can consider it a break of structure. And it's like, oh, okay, I think we're going to start going up now. And it doesn't mean a candle wick above this high, right? Let me erase this. I'll just remove all this stuff, right? So it doesn't mean that if we have this high right here, that if a candle wick goes over, that means we're in a break of structure or in an uptrend now. We have to get a candle closure, right? So the high is right here, and then what happens? Fail to make a lower low, and we make a higher high. But which candle out of these closes above the high? This one does, right here. Boom, we're in a break of structure right here. And then notice, we start having a higher high, higher low, higher high, higher low. And then as soon as you notice this low right here, because it's a down candle, then an up candle, what happens? We end up breaking structure again. Another break of structure, right? So here's an example of an uptrend, right? We're going a downtrend and then we break structure to the upside. Now we start consolidating a little bit. And then what happens? We break structure again and we're starting to go down and start creating lower highs and lower lows. And then what happens again? Oh my gosh, it's like back and forth. We bottom out here and it looks like it was just a pullback and we start going up again. And what happens here? Here's a high. This candle closes above this high, right? Boom, right here. So it closes right here. This high right here has been broken through, right? It has been pushed past and it closes. So we don't want to have a wick. A wick doesn't count. We want to have an actual candle closure. And so we know, okay, regardless of where this goes, there's going to be a higher high because it closed above this previous high. And then as you can see, boom, another high up here. So break of structure is really neat in that way. So it's a good confluence to know. This is one of the confluences that we're going to use to enter into trades, right? And we'll get over the strategy or go over the strategy in future videos, but let's learn the basics here. So let's look at an example online, break of structure and trading. I like to just show examples that actually look neat compared to what my crummy drawing, because it it really solidifies. I'm a visual learner myself. So we'll do break of structure and trading. Boom. What is this? Right? We see that we're in a downtrend here, a bearish break of structure. We have a lower low at the LL, and then we make a higher low, or sorry, a lower low or lower high, and then we fail to make a lower low, and then we have a higher high, right? And so what happens when we break past this? We start going into this uptrend, but if anything, it's a pullback. So there's a low here, the high might be up here, right? Here's a high right here. What happens? We break structure, but then we start moving down. And so here's a lower low. We break past that lower low and we close down here and it starts going up and down, right? So let's look at another example. This is actually a better example. So we're in a downtrend, right? Going down and we bottom out at this lower low. The previous high is right here, right? Up candle, then down candle. This top point is the high. So when we start making a low, what happens? We start moving into the next direction. The high is right here. Which candle closes above this high? This one does. Notice how this wick goes past this high, but it doesn't close. It's not a break of structure. It can start going back down. We need a candle closure above the high right here. We broke structure, but it doesn't mean that we're going to continue going up, right? It does not mean that. As we can see in this example, it was just a retracement to shoot back lower and lower, right? So what happens? We start making a lower low right here, boom. And then what happens? We don't get a break of structure in this candle because it's just a wick. And then boom, we have another candle or another low right next to it. So we're not worried about this candle closing below this low. We look at the newest low. The most recent low is what we need to break structure. We don't have to look at this one. Honestly, I don't even like this example right here. But with this, the most recent low is what we're looking to break. So right here, boom, what happens? Which candle breaks below this one? It doesn't close right here. It closes at this one. So we have a break of structure right here, right? Boom. And then we're going down, lower low, right? Does that make sense? Hopefully it does. So again, let's go a little bit quicker on this to understand what's going on. So again, we're going down. We'll move over a little bit to the left or to the right. We're in a downtrend down here, right? Market's going down this way. We continuously are making lower highs and lower lows. Lower high, or lower low, lower high, lower low, lower high, lower low, lower high, lower low, lower high. It just keeps going, right? And notice how we have, for this example right here, we have a retracement right here, a pullback, right? It doesn't mean that we're going to break this high right here. There's a high right here, up candle, down candle. Then we have a low right here, right? Down candle, up candle, that's a low. As soon as we see this live going back up, it doesn't mean we enter into a buy position. Also a buy position, they're called longs. We go for a long position. So if you hear that phrase long, it means you're buying. Shorting or a short means selling. So it doesn't mean that we instantly hit buy because it's going up, because then we obviously know that it's going to go back down, at least in this example. But when you're trading live, all this isn't here, obviously. So we have to know when to enter correctly. This does not mean that we enter now. This is just showing break of structure. So did we push past this high, this most recent high? No, we did not. We created a lower high. So we'll place it right there, lower high. This is the most recent low. Notice how we finally break past it. Is this right here a break of structure? Because it wicked in, the down candle wicked into this low. It does not. It has to be a candle closure. The candle right here next to this one closed way below down here this low. So we have a break of structure, and we're continuing to move down after this retracement, this pullback, right? We're still going down. Also, conversely, with, I guess, an uptrend, what happens here? We have this lowest, the lower low right here, right? Another low. Where's the most recent high? This is a blue candle, so up candle, down candle. That means that this is now the high, right? So we fail to make a lower low, and what happens? We push past this high and we close. So does this one close? No, it does not. Does this one? Yes, it does. It absolutely does. The most recent high right here. It's not this high that we're looking at right here. It's not this one. It's the most recent one. And we do close candle closure above. So that means, okay, we're possibly going into an uptrend, right? So we now have a new high up here. But then what happens? We start getting a little bit of a retracement. And then, oh, what happens here? Where's the most recent low? The most recent low is right here. So it doesn't mean that we broke structure and are going into a downtrend, because what happens? This low right here that is formed, just because it's a lower low, does not mean that we broke structure, right? It does not, because we didn't get a candle closure. This is a perfect example of this, because all this could be is a manipulation to move all the way back up, but it does not. It could be a manipulation where the market, the big movers of the market, the big whales, Notice, oh, there's a bunch of stop losses or take profits right at this level or underneath it, where people are either selling and they have a take profit, or they decide to buy and hope that the market continues to go up and they place their stop loss possibly down here, right? And so what happens? Retracement, and it continues to go down, right? But no, we're in an uptrend right here, technically, right? And then we push past this low, but we do not close past that low. We just wick into it. So it's not a break of structure, right? When does the break of structure happen? Well, we have a high right here. What happens? A low. So we start going back into this little uptrend thing, right? A high, a low. So now what are we going to base off of this? Okay, we have a high right here. Which candle closes above it? This one does right here. So now we're going back up. It doesn't mean that we trade in this though. This is just an example of break of structure. Please do not get confused with that. So this might seem all weird, like, oh, he doesn't know what he's talking about. Like he's gonna have people entering the market in the wrong time. No, I'm just showing what a break of structure is as a confluence. We have to have confluences paired for a strategy to know that, hey, this is confirmation that the market is going to move in the direction that you think it's going to move. So with that, go ahead and find 5 examples of break of structure to the upside and the downside, and then we'll get on to the next one. See ya.